All right. So I'll share my screen. And today we are on the Manual for Teachers, Section 6, Defenselessness. Great to have you all here. All right. Defenselessness. God's teachers have learned how to be simple. They have no dreams that need defense against the truth. They do not try to make themselves. Their joy comes from their understanding who created them. And does what God created need defense? No one can become an advanced teacher of God until he fully understands that defenses are but foolish guardians of mad illusions. The more grotesque the dream, the fiercer and more powerful its defenses seem to be. Yet when the teacher of God finally agrees to look past them, he finds that nothing was there. Slowly at first, he lets himself be undeceived, but he learns faster as his trust increases. It is not danger that comes when defenses are laid down. It is safety. It is peace. It is joy. And it is God. It was a short section. Anybody have anything they want to share about defenselessness or any experiences they had when they were in a position to lay down their defenses?
Yes. Let me get rid of this. You know, I remember reading from Don Miguel's book, something on this. He was talking about how people, you know, sometimes you get into some arguments about who's right, who's wrong. That's basically what defense is. And what he was saying was that he said that one person has to not give in, because you're not giving in, because that's what keeps us from trying to prove that we're right. You don't want to give in. You say, no, I'm not giving in to this. I know I'm right. But he said that it is to refrain. He used the word refrain. And that has stuck with me, especially when I'm in a, because I can get into some argument and some heated arguments, no doubt. And when I think of that, well, I think of two things. I think of the part of the course that mentions, would you rather be right or be happy? Mm-hmm. I think of that, and then I say, okay, it's time to refrain, because I want to be happy.
Yeah.
So you're not giving in. You see, you're refraining, which is a little different way of looking at it. That's what this made me think of.
Yeah, that's great. Great share. Thank you, Ernesto. I know, I think I hit some places when I first started reading the course, and then obviously later on, where it made me realize that I didn't have to fight so hard to be at peace and to be happy, right? That it was okay for me to lay down my defenses that I had built that I thought were keeping me safe. But really it was just distraction and keeping me away from the truth. And, you know, just another example of how the course is such a paradox of what we think brings us safety, peace, happiness, success. We think we have to line up all these defenses in order to protect ourselves. And all they do is keep us from experiencing the happiness and joy and freedom that's there. So much effort to create those defenses, so much effort. You can just let it go.
Well, even in the words we've started to use when we say let it go, although that gives us the control and the option, but we think of letting go as being very scary. I'm going to let go, and then what? And then what is really the peace, the safety, the connection to the support of the all. And so once you do get that, and so maybe better words would be acceptance or welcoming or something that gives us a feeling of joy or an anticipation of something good, instead of the words that we choose are just so powerful. And so we welcome the awakening to our God self, the being of the truth. And then it all falls into place. And as this paragraph said, it just starts happening faster and faster because it's in the speed of the connection to all. And so our whole sensory input is just so different than we've experienced, but it's all this wonderful like exploration of things. It's fantastic once you allow.
That's the word I was looking for, Mary. Allow, right? Such a powerful word. And I agree with you. Words are so powerful. So allow is so much more powerful than let go, because let go does seem scary, like a free fall. Like, where am I going? But yes, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Real freedom. Yeah.
Pardon me?
It's a real freedom just to not feel that you need to take up arms or a
Yes.
shield, that you're safe.
I'm a little confused. Doesn't the Course say that the thoughts we think are not the thoughts of God, or words to that effect? And so it kind of makes me think that, can I really be right about anything? And don't I have to get beyond the mind to be at one with God? Don't I have to get beyond the thoughts that I think?
Yes.
Which I think are right, but they may not necessarily be so according to the Course. I can't remember exactly what the phrase was, but the thoughts I think are not the thoughts of God. It's like when you come into consciousness, that's the first split, isn't it? That's the first conscious awareness is separation. So I'm a little bit confused about it, to be honest.
Well, I think too, it's part of the process, right? Where first you have to be conscious in order to be aware of what you're thinking, and then willing to let go of the thoughts that you're thinking outside and apart from the mind of God, and also allowing that that divine connection through what the Course calls the Holy Spirit, so that the thoughts of God then can now come into your awareness. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm still thinking that it's a thinking process that involves the Holy Spirit, whereas before I've been a little bit confused in thinking that I've got to go beyond the mind to be in God's territory, because the mind is part of the split, in which we separate from God.
Right. And so have you ever had moments where you're not really being conscious of thinking? Like maybe you're in the shower and the water's running over your head and you just have a moment where you have no thoughts, no mind, but then a voice or a thought comes into your mind from seemingly out of nowhere?
Not that so much. I've had feelings of in the zone which seem to be without thinking.
Right.
Just to be
time, Freddie. Do you have experience of no time?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yes.
So in no time, if you close your eyes and you have the experience of no time, and you close your eyes, you'll notice that all your voice, what you hear, anything you feel, and so on and so forth, all thoughts and so also everything just flows through you,
mm,
stays there permanently, because everything isn't you permanently. Everything is something that is real permanently.
mm,
If you have the experience of no time, it's the same experience. It's just that time goes one way for us to receive it, and then it continues onwards. So that like the forward arrow of time is going forward, but I receive it at a different time, perhaps, than somebody else receives it. So the time is coming from the future and going to the past.
Mm.
Okay. My experience of it is that it has an arrow and it goes forward. So it's confusion outside of the idea of consciousness. In time and space, it's very confusing because time goes forward in the way that we use it in science and so on and so forth. In reality, time doesn't really go that direction at all. In reality, it goes towards source. Source is infinity, not the finite reality. So you're looking for the infinity of reality. You're not looking for the finite reality. You're blocking the infinite reality because infinite reality is queer compared to the way that we were raised. So you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't understand it. With your eyes open, you're in your senses all about what's going on around you. You can't find timelessness. You said you had experience of it, so start from there, or start from the point of that quiet moment in the shower or whatever when thoughts seem to go away.
Mm.
But outside of that experience of sort of nothing, there's a screen, the gap of consciousness, whereupon everything therefore appears to you, and it's confusing because now it's moving and it's an object of some sort, and it's always going towards some sort of separation into objects. But before that happens, before time goes in the direction that we think of as forward, it comes from the future. It comes from the reality of infinite no time. I don't know if it
yeah,
seems like it does a little bit.
yeah. I think the closest way I can get to describe it is the state of no mind.
Mhm.
Yes, that
Yeah.
it is a
Yeah.
state that's open and therefore it's
Mm.
not immersed in thinking because it's just flowing. Whatever's going on is just sort of flowing through your body, not
Yeah.
controlling it.
And I had an interesting thought reaction to what you were saying, Eric, that if it doesn't come from the past and going forward, or from the forward and coming back, it's actually going vertical to be connecting with the one
Yeah,
mind.
I would think of it as vertical as well for a second.
Mm.
So I look inward to what's in my heart when I want to be peaceful, and
Mm.
I let myself remember peacefulness resides in my heart.
Mm.
Then I tell myself to look upward now to what spirit shows me, what's available for me to see
Mm.
instead of my confusion or complications or whatever like that.
Mm.
So we could describe it that, and it's probably easier to describe it that way when we're talking about ascending in the levels of consciousness. So
Mm.
I don't remember talking to you about it with, or when you were here that we talked about it, but there's a chart that David R. Hawkins used called the map of consciousness. And he shows
Yeah,
it
I'm
just
familiar.
elevates kind of nicely above
Yeah.
pride. But when I have pride and I have the idea of discipline and being all organized about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, how I'm communicating my words and so on and so forth, being very careful about what I'm writing or whatever. Now I'm down in the area before courage. And so without courage, I'm really limited in what I can understand or see or feel or experience from the infinite, because that's all finite stuff going on there.
Mm.
So I would like to be able to escape from the finite world when I'm talking about A Course in Miracles or when I'm reading A Course in Miracles, already before I had, but there's a routine to that. The accepting atonement plan, for me, it's a thing to review before talking about the course or whatever, just review. It has 4 parts to it. Do I feel like I'm sort of in sync with those 4 parts? Then I begin to recognize I am sort of in sync with those 4 parts. Then I maybe see lights or maybe the other experiences that help me see I'm at ease more with myself now. And then the mindlessness, the unorganized thought structure becomes now the choice, because it's not organized by separate thinking, it's organized by peacefulness, stillness, whatever. People use different ways to describe that too. But like the course is explaining about the mind, and you're right, it talks about more than one level of the mind, really. So the first level of mind is where we want to see. I want to see the story that says I'm going to be liberated from this camp. I don't need to be so radically involved in everything that's happening in this camp. I want to see that, yes, I have roots in this, but those roots I have to use them as a means towards this other end, towards this peacefulness, towards calm. And that's when the mind begins to sort of disappear out of the way. Because otherwise it seems to be a tool of some sort, and not really the mind is not really like a thinking mind. It's a tool that's used for the means to that end, or the means to this complications and confusion and difficulties. Can be used either way.
So I think
So who chooses? So who chooses that is the real question, I think. I choose it only with God if I choose it with God. If I choose it otherwise, I choose it by the ego.
So I think to reference, I think checking in vertically is probably a better way to go, rather than trying to work it out with my finite mind.
Yeah, let me see a better way to see this. Let me this from your perspective. Those sort of prayers, yeah.
Getting back to source.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other conversations before we move on to generosity?
Well, I was considering not sharing this because of what it would lead into, but what it was going to lead into just happened. So I've found many times that I become very defenseless, or when I reach the bottom, and I've reached it quite a few times in my life, that I get to a point where there's little to no hope left, and I'm in a space that is that I basically give up on pretty much everything. And once that happens, then it leaves me wide open to the influence of the Holy Spirit or whatever. And I'm not looking for it. I'm not looking for anything. I'm broken, and I'm down to nothing. And that's when the most profound things happen. Even though I'm not looking for it, I'm not expecting it. That's when it does happen.
That's awesome, Carl. And I've also experienced that when you finally stop looking out there
Or anywhere.
or anywhere, and you're just done, right? You're just absolutely done, and you give up, right? It's letting go, it's giving up. And it seems scary, but it's also very freeing. And you hit that place of nothingness. And the only thing left is that spark of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when you get more inspiration than you've ever had in your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the freedom I was talking about. There's really nothing to do.
Right.
It's just really kind of moving out of the way. Yeah.
Good.
Great
Eric,
share, Carl.
could I just ask, what was that reference that you made, Eric? Some chart or something that?
I'll put it in the chat for you. I don't have your email, so I'll put it in chat for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's continue to generosity. Generosity. The term generosity has special meaning to the teacher of God. It is not the usual meaning of the world. In fact, it is a meaning that must be learned, and learned very carefully. Like all the other attributes of God's teachers, this one rests ultimately on trust. For without trust, no one can be generous in the true sense. To the world, generosity means giving away in the sense of giving up. To the teachers of God, it means giving away in order to keep. This has been emphasized throughout the text and the workbook, but it is perhaps more alien to the thinking of the world than many other ideas in our curriculum. Its greater strangeness lies merely in the obviousness of its reversal of the world's thinking. In the clearest way possible, and at the simplest of levels, the word means the exact opposite to the teachers of God and to the world. The teacher of God is generous out of self-interest. This does not refer, however, to the self of which the world speaks. The teacher of God does not want anything he cannot give away because he realizes it would be valueless to him by definition. What would he want it for? He could only lose because of it. He could not gain. Therefore, he does not seek what only he could keep, because that is a guarantee of loss. He does not want to suffer. Why should he ensure himself pain? But he does want to keep for himself all things that are of God, and therefore for his Son. These are the things that belong to him. These he can give away in true generosity, protecting them forever for himself.
The gifts of the Spirit.
Yes.
Yeah, I was particularly struck, with that word possessing. That is like, it just hit me as like a Danger Will Robinson. Paraphrase the old show. In those moments when I was in spirit, let's say, however we want to talk about that, it was nothing at all about possessing anything. What he said there was, it's a, I don't know. Yeah. Giving away in the fourth sentence there, that first paragraph, to the world, generosity means giving away in the sense of to keep, but the word extension here comes to play. Is there's no loss, there's just a constant gain by giving away honestly from what you really are. And we can't really talk about what we really are. We can try to talk about that. It's what y'all have been, we try to put this into words, and it's very hard. So that's where we slip into silence. I think it's, I don't know. I'm at a loss. I think you all know what I mean. So
I think that's a good point, Tim. And, it can certainly bring up a lot of confusion. Like, what does that mean? And
yeah.
I guess the word that comes to my mind is being of service. In that sense of being of service, I can give all of my gifts being of service, and they're never lost. They only come back to me even in more abundance, right? Because the more I can be of service, the more it is a gift to me out of my own self-interest, because it builds that connection I have to my brother and to the at-one-ment, just knowing that I can truly be of service without expectation. And it's such a gift, right? I know, Carl, you are always doing that in your cooking and your serving and your artwork, and we've talked about that so many times.
Would this be like karma?
I don't know. The Course doesn't talk much about karma because it doesn't want you to be preoccupied with the past. I know it talks about that later on. It maybe even be in the manual for teachers about is reincarnation so. And it talks about, it doesn't really matter if it is or if it isn't, but the Course tries to err on the side of don't get preoccupied with it, because it'll take you away from doing the work in this moment now.
Yeah, yeah, that's clear.
There's a nice book that talks about karma in a very easygoing way. And it's about dream yoga. And dream yoga is about what the yogis connect with the dream dakinis and the world of the unmanifest physical nature, unmanifest nature, or whatever, however they put it. But they talk about it in a nice way, an easy way to understand. It's not a problem as you make progress. It's a problem if you're not making progress, because I can tell you for my experience of karma, you're warned before anything happens if you pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah, but what
So
I
if
was
you-
referring to was the generosity part of this giving away and not expecting anything back, because it's not, it's giving it all away except for what belongs to what is actually the Holy Spirit. I just was curious, as like, was that's kind of like karma, but it's not really, because it's really just finding the value in anything, not finding the value in anything.
Yeah, it's more like a process of seeing through it. So the ego speaks first, so let me see through it instead. Yes,
Yeah, so it's not really like karma, but I was getting kind of
it
confused.
is sort of related, though. Yes.
Okay, good conversation. Anybody else want to chime in before we continue?
I think it's very practical, because if you don't give it away, you don't keep it. It's like you've got to share joy in order to feel joy.
Mhm.
In order to experience joy, you have to keep sharing it.
Well, that's my concept of karma, is that the more you give away, the more you get back. But as long as you're not trying to get it back, as long as it's not in your head, hey, I'm going to give all this away because I know I'm going to get it back. That's not what
No.
Right.
that's not how karma works. But that's why I was curious, is this karma?
Yeah, I guess you could call it law of attraction too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Also, the
Symbols
separating
of symbols.
thought. Also, another idea about thought is that the separating thought really has no effect back on cause.
Mm,
Right,
yeah.
true.
Cool.
Good point. Okay, let's keep going to patience. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait, and wait without anxiety. Patience is natural to the teacher of God. All he sees is certain outcome, at a time perhaps unknown to him as yet, but not in doubt. The time will be as right as is the answer, and this is true for everything that happens now or in the future. The past as well held no mistakes, nothing that did not serve to benefit the world, as well as him to whom it seemed to happen. Perhaps it was not understood at the time. Even so, the teacher of God is willing to reconsider all his past decisions if they are causing pain to anyone. Patience is natural to those who trust, sure of the ultimate interpretation of all things in time. No outcome already seen or yet to come can cause them fear. Patience.
That's a good one for me. My kitten went missing on the 2nd. And so it's just been horrible. It's just been so hard every day. I've been in agony and trying to let go and have acceptance. So this reading is just so pertinent to what I'm going through. And I started reading, it's a book that I've had for years on healing. And it talks about letting go, talks about forgiveness and, and letting go. And so I need to let him let him go and stop holding him in fear in my heart. And be okay with the not knowing. It's really hard when it comes to missing missing someone you love.
Can you leave food outside for the cat? Can you leave food outside?
I
You have
can, but
animals?
it's just gonna attract strays.
Other
Who are
animals?
gonna eat it. We have my son and his partner living with us, and they brought their cat, and she's indoor outdoor, and my other cat Grayson's indoor outdoor. So I did put his litter outside, but he would smell Penny and Grayson because they're outside quite a bit if he were close enough. I just feel like he just has gotten so far away that he can't find his way back. So I've got tons of posts everywhere, handed out dozens of flyers, knocked on hundreds of doors. So anyways, I just, because it's not doing anyone any good for me to be a wreck.
Right.
It could be at somebody else's house. That happened to me, I had a cat just, I was walking into the house and he took off by me and disappeared into the house. Could not find him in the house. So I kind of gave up. And then so I left food out because I figured this guy's got to eat. It's been 3 days and I couldn't find him. No noise making, nothing. And he would eat the food and I don't know where he was going, in the bathroom. I mean, he was in the house for about 2 or 3 days. And one day I opened the door and he scooted out. It was almost like just a shadow. And I was like, what the heck was that about? And this is before I had any pets. I mean, I usually don't have any pets. They're usually rescues if I do get one, and they don't last very long.
No, our animals teach us too, right? About life and about asking the bigger questions.
It could be in somebody's house. They don't even know it.
And then we get back to, what is this world and is this an illusion? And, what is God? And, I think they're here to teach us and they're here to make us ask the questions. All of our relationships point to asking the deeper question. What is this world? And am I missing this cat or this dog or this person who may or may not be in this world anymore? But does that even matter? Because all minds are joined. All minds are joined, whether we're here or whether we're not here, and not to make slight of grieving a lost loved one, but just kind of putting the emphasis back on what is real and what is not real.
I don't know about anybody else, but in that moment, I personally can't apply that. Like if I was going through what you're going through, Kathleen, okay, we talk about letting him go or trying to be at peace with it. I guess I just don't understand. I would love to be that person who can reconcile that in my mind, come back to the teachings of the course and be at peace with what is in that situation. I don't know how to do it yet. I don't know how to do it yet.
You do pretty darn well.
Well,
Especially with like Tish disappeared for what, 6 months?
it was about 4 months.
Yeah. And you were like, she'll come back. You were pretty good about that.
Yeah. I don't know that she's, I think, and they say there's no levels of love or levels of attachment, but Tish was essentially feral. It was this cat that, it's a long story, but anyway, she was gone for 3 months. And it's funny, Ernesto was talking about maybe the cat's somewhere else. I think the neighbor took her in because it was the end of June and I went away for a trip with Jana and came back. The cat was missing. And the last week in September, I was sitting on my couch and looked out the sliding glass door and there's the cat sitting there. So it was almost 4 months later.
Wow.
So, yeah, so I guess all things are possible, but I just think about like my attachment, like to Josie, who has quite the personality, my dog. It just seems like that's a different level of attachment that I have to the animal. So it's, or it would be like a different level of attachment to your child, you know, if anything happened to your child. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still just in this world.
But the harder the lesson, you know, the bigger the lesson.
Yeah, I'm tired of the lessons. I've got,
So am I.
I'm really,
I
really,
want summer break.
You are absolved from
really
all further
tired.
lessons.
I just feel like, I just feel like, especially in the last, I don't know, how long has it been, Carl?
6 years.
It's been years. No, I was gonna say longer than that. Probably
Oh, my.
15. I've had the most major, you know, life upheavals and stuff that have taught me the greatest lessons, but have also left the deepest wounds. And I'm done with it. I'm good. I'm good. I can't tell the Holy Spirit. I tell the Holy Spirit every morning, you know, I give my thoughts and give my mind to you so that I can walk in peace. And I've been trying to remember to, you know, at night, I give you my mind so I can rest in peace, and doing the best I can as I muddle along through this earth.
Oh, those kind of lessons. Oh, that's different. That has been longer. I was referring to the political lessons that we've all been learning.
Why on
Okay,
earth do you think-
we're going down the tubes here.
Why would you reference political? You know what? You know what, Terry? He did that. This is the needle. This is my guru right here. 'Cause he knows how that pisses me off.
That's what patience is all about, right?
Yeah, right.
That's right.
Maybe we need
Patience.
to reread that section.
Maybe you should reread that section.
I think we've got more to learn, so let's keep going.
Is comedy the next one? Oh, no.
We've got another one here, so let's see what we've got here.
Comedy's essential.
Okay, faithfulness. Confused with comedy. Okay. The extent of the teacher of God's faithfulness is the measure of his advancement in the curriculum. Does he still select some aspects of his life to bring to his learning while keeping others apart? If so, his advancement is limited and his trust not yet firmly established. Faithfulness is the teacher of God's trust in the word of God to set all things right, not some, but all. Generally, his faithfulness begins by resting on just some problems, remaining carefully limited for a time. To give up all problems to one answer is to reverse the thinking of the world entirely. And that alone is faithfulness. Nothing but that really deserves the name. Yet each degree, however small, is worth achieving. Readiness, as the text notes, is not mastery. True faithfulness, however, does not deviate. Being consistent, it is wholly honest. Being unswerving, it is full of trust. Being based on fearlessness, it is gentle. Being certain, it is joyous. And being confident, it is tolerant. Faithfulness then combines in itself the other attributes of God's teachers. It implies acceptance of the word of God and his definition of his son. It is to them that faithfulness in the true sense is always directed. Toward them it looks, seeking until it finds. Defenselessness attends it naturally, and joy is its condition. And having found, it rests in quiet certainty on that alone to which all faithfulness is due.
Boy, that speaks to what was just going on here.
Yeah, it sure does. I love how that happens.
Perfectly said, too. Wow. Yeah, I've always had a problem with the word faithfulness back in my Well, I was raised as a Baptist and just have faith, son, have faith, all these questions I have and pray and have faith. That's no answer.
Yeah, because it brings up that there has to be some sort of meaning that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
if you don't have that, like I didn't have that either. So I was really guarded about all the spiritual aspects of myself in such a way as to like where's it going?
Yeah.
What are you supposed to know in order to know anything?
Right.
For example,
Right.
like
Right.
I don't seem to know anything that holds up that level of like some kind of spirituality to feel some holiness or anything like that. I didn't have the answer to that. Like, where's that at exactly? How do you get there? What do you do when you get there? How do you know you're there? And all this sort of questions came up in my mind. Like, what when the course started out in the workbook lessons, and the first lessons were really bringing in about this absence of meaningfulness in what I see, or even in what I think, or even in what I believe, and so on and so forth. I was sort of on board with that right away because I already had that experience of like, so what is it supposed to mean anyway? Who's going to tell me? Why am I going to believe them? I was very not trusting sort of person, actually, which I think was good to some degree. You got to find the answers though to be happy. Yeah.
Yeah, made you ask a lot of questions, right?
Did I? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, when you don't trust, you ask questions,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
I want to speak to that whole thing about attachment, because I think this is where faithfulness, I think, plays a part. I have another rescue. I have a dog that my friend, I inherited it. He passed away, and just recently, all of a sudden, he couldn't walk. He wasn't moving. An episode, he had one episode like that, and then the second episode was even more intense. And I had a meltdown. I mean, I just melted down. I was like, what, And I lost myself in that emotional, like loss, lack, whatever you want to call it. Took him to the vet. They gave him some medicine. He's on a steroid and he's fine. He's jumping around again, being a pain in the ass. And it's like, I'm thinking to myself, see, now this is what you wanted? So it's made me just reflect on that needy thing that I had, because I was going to miss him, playing with him, being with him. And then, it was a reflection upon my feelings, not the dog, that I recognized was the loss and why I was feeling so down and hurt and emotionally, just like I said, I was having a meltdown, and realized, I said, you've had him for 4 years. It's been great. And I have a friend that just, he's not into any of this, but he's pretty hardcore. He said, yeah, why don't you buy him some steak now and really treat him great, because, he might not be around long. And it made me realize that it's me that's having this thing. It has nothing to do with him. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
Yeah, no, you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
So introspectively, I all of a sudden I feel stronger, because I realized that I'm being wah over myself.
Yeah.
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 Too, a lot of these relationships that we have with our pets, with our children, and the fear of loss, the fear of losing them, goes back to our own fear of death. And if we can look at that, I mean, really, really look at that. Like, what is that? What is that fear of death? And face that, right? That's like the biggest source of fear of everything. I think they say goes back to the fear of death. And Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a great book about that, Beyond Fear. So good.
That's right. And actually, in the whole Toltec wisdom thing, it's mentioned that fear is really our ally, or death rather. Death is our ally.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, let's see if we can get our last reading in for this section. So then we'll have a little bit more time to discuss. Open-mindedness. The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. How do the open-minded forgive? They have let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. They have, in truth, abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious they could never have conceived of such a change. Nothing is now as it was formerly. Nothing but sparkles now, which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all, are all things welcoming, for threat is gone. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. You may have noticed that the list of attributes of God's teachers does not include things that are the Son of God's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be most inappropriate here. What God has given is so far beyond our curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet, while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It is the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is the unlearning that they bring, for that is true learning in the world. It is given to the teachers of God to bring the glad tidings of complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for they are the bringers of salvation. Dun, dun, dun. You know, it's interesting. I was responding to a comment today on Facebook about the show at the halftime of Super Bowl yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
About Rihanna's show,
was a
because a lot
show.
of people, yeah, we're talking about it, right?
Wow.
And people were like, oh, I was so disappointed. And other people were like, well, she's pregnant and she has a baby. What do you expect?
I thought so.
And, you know, and I chimed in, you know, I don't understand the whole like grabbing yourself and the sex and the twerking. Like, what is that all about? And, you know, I didn't mean it in a judging way. I was just like, I don't get it. Like, I'm trying to understand what that's, maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe I'm not sure what it is. And, you know, somebody responded to my post and said, well, you know, that's just her brand. And that's what she was like before she had a baby. And, you know, and she's a woman and, you know, I support her and whatever her brand is, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and my comment back to that was, I'm not even being judgmental here. I'm trying to understand what it means. Like I've always had the question of why do that? What is the purpose? What's the intention? Is it a message? Is it a need? Is it like, what is it? And that's kind of where I see open-mindedness, like the questioning, like I'm not judging, I'm just wondering, like, what is the obsession with the grabbing of the genitals, and what is it for? What is it trying to say to the world, you know? And of course that's getting very involved in the world and the illusion of the world. It's just, but it was a question that I put out there. I guess that's part of my, like, not judging, open-mindedness, just trying to understand what is this generation all about, even though it is just a projection of the illusion of myself, and I am all that is all. But I'd like to understand what I'm thinking as a 30-year-old. What does that mean? What am I really trying to say here?
What to me, because I know that I experienced the same thing you're talking about, okay? And all I could think to myself is that, well, here you are the old phobie now. What do you think about that? Okay, what do you think about that? So within that same thought, I said, well, you know what? This is what happens with generations after generations.
Right.
They become more explicit, more open, because in the end, well, and I don't mean to be, we all, no, maybe that's not the proper.
Ernesto.
I mean, you know, because all I could think to myself is like, wait a minute, you know, I can relate to that, because, you know, in my experiences in love and making love, yeah, you know, I've done this stuff, right? To have it open like that, who am I to say? Just because I'm old, I mean, I've done all of that. Heck yeah, you know, why not have it out there?
Yeah.
Who are we to say anything about that other than being judgmental, like you were saying?
Right.
Right.
It's
Right.
really no difference than Michael Jackson doing it.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where it
Yeah.
started, right? So I was
Sure.
just trying to figure it out, like because like you can see it with a lot of the performers, not just her, you know, but Madonna and everybody, you know, it's all the grabbing and the twerking and all the stuff. But it's just interesting, you know, because it's a different expression of art, a different artistic expression.
It's
that's
keeping
showing up.
it's keeping open-minded about it.
Right,
Oh.
yeah, exactly.
Frank Zappa,
Oh, God.
one of his
yeah.
quotes was, the mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open.
Did he
go.
say that?
Very well put.
Oh, wow.
Oh, where's the wisdom? Talking about parachutes, it's like what's happening with these balloons. This thing has just taken a life of its own now. There's 4 of them now that have been shot down that we know of.
Wow.
Okay, and where is this going? I mean, I was reading to Twitter. I'm not even on Twitter, but I was reading a news piece on it. This thing was hilariously funny. I sent it to all the friends that I have, because at first I saw it and said, "Oh, alien." It was the first thing I thought about. Oh, maybe these are aliens. So I saw the headline. I started reading the headline thinking this was serious, and it was making fun of the whole thing. Shoot before you answer questions, you know, shoot it down and ask questions later. I mean, they just made such a funny whole thing about this. I was rolling, I was dying laughing, because they showed the ridiculousness of it, I guess. I don't know, all the madness that's associated with it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just it, and again, it's, you know, look, how do you even see it? How do you even know? I even read this thing, and maybe I read it in there, that when they started looking at the component parts, they were made in America. So, you know.
Oh, my God.
Right. So, I mean, you know, have fun. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting too, like when you get through all of the attributes of God's teachers, you really see that, you know, all of the stuff that we focus on, that we get all in an uproar about, or have an opinion about, whether it's a grieving loss of a loved one, or a judgment of somebody doing something that we think should or shouldn't have happened. It's still all preoccupation with the world, right?
Yeah, judgment.
And what if we could just let go of all of it and just connect to that one mind? I mean, what are we missing because we're focusing on the illusion? You know, what if we were open-minded enough to say, let's focus on the at-one-ment and see and see heaven on earth. Let's see what we can see through new vision and new eyes, instead of going down the old familiar paths of the ego.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're attempting to make it real
Right.
right.
by focusing on it, by believing in what we're looking at. We're making it real.
Right.
We're making
And-
the illusion real.
And not to,
Also healing and the reduction of the symptoms of that also though are being made real too. So it's not as easy as it sounds to just let go of it all.
yeah.
Because letting go of it all, well, what am I letting go of exactly?
Yeah.
It's like a little ping pong match.
Nothing.
I'll bat it over there. You bat
Crazy
it.
little paradigm that you're in that says, you're pretty crazy, and I don't know if you can do this, but you can try, and if you try, that's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
I want to show you all a picture that I took the other day. This is very, very weird. If the camera,
Mm-mm.
I don't know if it's gonna.
You might have to undo your blur,
Oh, is that
your
it?
background blur.
Oh, I don't know if I can. Well,
Oh, something in the sky.
yeah, let's see, blur. Okay, there we go.
Okay, there you go. Oh,
Trails.
wow.
Now
Palm
you can
trails.
see it.
Contrails, okay.
So that, but look at the shape that it took, and this would be over the
Tic-tac-toe.
Florida State Capitol,
Tic-tac-toe.
about tic-tac-toe exactly. So I was gonna post this on Twitter. I was just gonna say, what do you make of this? And then watch the avalanche. But
Right.
But I mean, does anybody have any balloons or something we could play with? But I didn't alter this.
Put a balloon in there. There you go.
I've never seen anything like that. I mean, this is going away from the cameras going south towards the Capitol, but
Interesting.
those other planes would have been flying towards Jacksonville or to Dallas or something from Jacksonville. So I don't know, weird, but I saw the humor in it, and then I'm like hesitant and even wanting to get it started because it shows up on a Twitter account where, I've just tried to put a few things out there that are worth saying. And if I do something like that, then, what does that say about this guy? Do I want to promote more fear and anguish in the world? And talking about that show last night, I spent probably 25% of the time worried about her falling.
I think she was
One of the
strapped
safety
in.
It
features,
was.
so there was a fear-based thing, a real concern thing. So anyway,
I'm
drama.
sorry, this is a bit off topic, but I'm just looking at Kathleen's screen, and does that look like a cat looking through a window to you?
It's not though.
Can you see that
Hanging
window?
on the bottom window, Kathleen. It's not your cat though.
No,
I don't think we can see the bottom of the,
the wind
Well,
chime.
Kathleen's standing in front of it now.
Okay, well, let me move. I can't see my own.
They're words. They're
screen.
words. They're three words, and they're in a triangle shape.
Huh.
Is that words?
Yeah, and in
Oh.
distance they look like they're. If you have everybody on the screen and you have your image is just that little bit tiny, it looks like a face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're all looking for your cat, Kathleen.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, just a little comment on how we
Leaves
got
on the
our cat.
trees, so maybe they'll find them today.
We had a cat that literally, I won't tell you how I got out. It was ridiculously stupid, but this was the second time this male cat we have did this. And so my son very, very astutely, I guess he did some research on it to just, and we were in the time of the year where we could do this. We just left the front door open. And we have, cameras out there for the Ring camera. And so, and Michael was up all night. So he literally saw the cat walk through the screen door onto the front porch, went out, opened the door, then walked away because they're kind of weird after they've been out for a while. And the cat came in. So after just a couple of days, but anyway, so Kathleen, I don't know. It's winter time now, so I don't know about that, but maybe you have a screen porch that's kind of secure and maybe some kind of camera that you could watch. I don't know, a video, whatever.
Yeah, a ring camera is a good idea. I have a front porch and a back porch.
Yeah.
And he, one of the panes is missing. He did the same exact thing as my other ginger cat that died this fall used to do. So there's an inside door with a
Mhm.
big, plexiglass window, and then the outside wooden one has different panes of glass. And so one or two of the bottom panes are missing. So what Shelby would do is jump up onto the pane and prop himself so that you could see his face in the window of the inside door, and he'd bang on it. I don't know how, whether his head or his paw, to let us know that he wanted in.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the cutest
Well,
thing
you're
ever.
so you're in touch with that. So yeah. And you've already put up all your messages around, so
Everywhere,
yeah,
every
you're
group
doing
I
all
can
you can
think
do.
of, and I have another 100 flyers that we just printed, so I'm gonna go back to knocking on doors tomorrow, and
Hmm.
yeah, I won't stop.
Yeah, I
Luck,
understand.
Kathleen.
Well, good luck with finding Kitty, or all of us will be thinking about him, and hopefully you'll find
Thanks.
your kitten.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everyone for joining today. This was great. We made it through this section, and next week we'll have a new section. How is healing accomplished? So thanks for joining. Anybody have any last remarks before we close, since it's already after 1:30?
No.
It was like healing balm.
That's right. It was. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. I will see you next week. Thanks for joining.
Great.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks. Good to see everybody
Bye.
again.
Eric,
Yeah, good
thank
to
you
see
for
you guys.
the chart. Appreciate it, Eric. Yeah. Thank you.
Very
Bye-bye.
good. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.